Hello, my name is Mike Ward, and I'm the Global Head of Life Sciences and Healthcare Thought Leadership at Clarivate, a leading provider of tools and solutions to help those engaged in research accelerate their innovation efforts. This episode of Conversations in Healthcare is actually being conducted in partnership with One Nucleus and the On Healx meeting. The theme of this year's On Healx is New Medicines in a Brave New World. In this series of Fireside chats, I'm talking to key opinion leaders about how they are developing their activities to enhance the innovation of new medicines. And one of the most exciting, revolutionary new tools that has emerged and is now being employed by drug discoverers is artificial intelligence, machine learning. So in this context, I'm delighted to be joined by Tim Guilliams, who is definitely well placed to talk about this subject. Tim is the co-founder and CEO of Healx, an AI-powered, patient-inspired technology company that's dedicated to helping rare disease patients access life-improving treatments. Healx was founded in 2014 in Cambridge, UK, by Tim and David Brown, who was a co-inventor of Viagra and former global head of drug discovery at Roche. And in 2019, the company raised $56 million in a Series B round. So Tim, thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Mike. Delighted to be here.
So Tim, as I mentioned in my introduction, Healx is an AI-powered tech company with a focus on finding new therapies to treat rare diseases. So I thought it'd be interesting to start off, what inspired you to create a healthcare-focused AI company, and why the focus on rare diseases?
Great question. So when I finished my PhD at Cambridge in 2013, there's a few things that happened, and the first thing was for me to meet my co-founder David Brown, who, as you explained, has a very strong background in drug discovery, and we had similar ideas of how we could try and improve the drug discovery process by using machine learning. And speaking to Dave, it was clear that there were many frustrations across the decades that he worked in drug discovery, and that we could basically improve that by using technology. Now, the second thing that happened was we met a rare disease parent called Nick Siro, and he's local, and he has two children with an ultra-rare disease called black bone disease. And at the time, he was trying to repurpose a drug as a cure for his kids. And we thought he was really ingenious because it's an ultra rare disease. So there's not many people working on it, and there's no drugs being approved. So Nick managed to identify that a molecule which was used for plant purposes acted on the same enzyme that his children had the mutation of. And so that's when we realized the power to do this basically at scale in a different way, maximizing value of existing treatments for rare diseases, and also realize how big this therapeutic unmet need is. So you have 7,000 rare diseases and 95% don't have an approved treatment today. And you can't ask all those patients and families to wait 10 to 15 years to potentially have a treatment. So you need to approach this in a different way. And that's why we believe technology can help do this at a different scale, different speeds, and have a much bigger impact.
Okay, so you set the company up nearly 7 years ago. So can you sort of describe, what progress you have made that sort of validates, for example, the use of artificial intelligence or machine learning in the drug discovery process for a rare disease treatment?
So far we've launched 17 programs, and the most advanced one is starting phase 2A clinical trial this summer. That's on Fragile X syndrome. There will be a combination therapy trial, adaptive clinical trial design. And so, which is a great validation for our approach and technology. The other programs we've launched run across rare neuro, respiratory, kidney, oncology, neuromuscular. And so far, in all the programs that we've started, we've only had one where we didn't manage to predict and identify active compounds. So that's been an incredibly successful journey so far. And what's very hard is that most severe diseases will actually need more than one mode of action or one drug to get the patient better. And so we've focused heavily on the one hand, predicting monotherapies, but also drug combinations. And that's very hard because if you look at combinations of 2 or 3 existing treatments, you have more than 10 billion possibilities per disease. So how do you select the top 10, the top 20 that you want to test and move to the clinic? And so we've had an incredibly successful validation of our platform and approach. And on the team side of things, we've been managed to grow in the team significantly. So we're now about 87 people, and we're continuing to grow. We've raised around $70 million so far, and so everything's coming together, and we've made good progress.
So the sort of the identification of the sort of the molecules that you're looking to develop as monotherapies or in combination, are these already sort of existing drugs that you're looking to repurpose, or is it so potentially coming up with ideas for de novo synthesis of new molecules?
So our primary focus is on monotherapy drug redevelopment, and some of them are already approved, some of them have passed the phase 1 clinical proof of concept. Then we also focus on combinations of those molecules together. And then the third arm is around molecule enhancement. So you start from a molecule that has good enough properties and you enhance those further. So those are the 3 activities we're looking into.
No. So in my introduction, I mentioned this AI-powered tech company with a sort of that healthcare focus. But can you sort of describe, your business model? Do you have ambitions to be a drug company that will take programs to a proof of concept and then look for partners, or are you actually going to, do it all yourself?
Great question. So the business model for us is very simple. We're a drug company. We want to bring treatments to market ourselves. We also want to do that in partnership. So some of the programs are partnered, but we want to build a fully integrated biotech company, but in a tech-driven way. So it's what we're trying to build is this next generation biotech, your biotech 2.0, where you try and apply technology, machine learning, data-driven approach across your process and improve the likelihood of success at each stage. And we're not interested in selling fee for service or selling technology to pharma. We're interested to invent treatments, but the majority of the team have a tech and data background. So we're quite unusual in the way we're structured, but the business model and the mission of the company is to invent treatments for rare diseases, bring those to market, and some of those will be partnered.
So it is genuinely multidisciplinary. I mean, you said you have nearly 90 employees now in the company. So what is the sort of share from what most of the audience would recognize as your conventional drug discovery researchers, and what are those tech focused employees? What's the sort of proportion?
So right now, the proportion of more conventional drug discovery experts is about 35%. And so the rest is tech and data. And the team that's been growing the fastest over the last year was our tech and data team, which grew from about 23 people to more than 50 people over 2020. So that's what's we're investing the most in. And we're trying to recruit people from very strong technology backgrounds. So the last VP that we announced was Andy Watson. He was director of machine learning at Dyson. He's also doing a PhD in pharmacology on the side. So we're trying to really hire the best experts on the tech side and on the drug discovery side. And our CTO as well, Chief Technology Officer, Mary Williams, she has a rare disease herself, but is one of the leading tech CTOs in Europe and has scaled engineering teams to very, very rapid growth. So we're really trying to bring those together.
So they are sort of two distinct populations with their own language. How do you sort of ensure, within sort of the culture of the company, that they're able to actually, communicate with each other and actually understand what each other is actually trying to do?
That's actually one of the hardest bits, is to create a culture where people try to speak the same language indeed, build cross-functional teams behind common objectives, and not end up with a situation where one expertise is considered more valuable than the other, because that's really, and it's very hard to find people who have the backgrounds in both areas, because particularly the AI field applied to drug discovery is quite new. And so you don't have many purple unicorns who meet all those criteria. And so you have to do quite a lot of investment in training and development and build a culture that values that and bring people together. And I think we've managed to do this quite successfully, but we're continuing to improve as well. That's indeed one of the hardest things.
Yeah. So there are more than 7,000 rare diseases. So how do you decide which ones you're actually going to focus on?
I think that is the single most difficult decision to make, because from an ethical perspective, you want to be able to help as many rare disease patients as possible. There are worldwide more than 400 million people affected by a rare disease. Half of those are children. So how do you select the ones you're going to prioritize and the ones you're going to commit to take to the clinic? And so we do this in a data-driven approach. So we have algorithms that help us rank the diseases, cluster the diseases. We also have experts, curators, and we assess a number of parameters going from availability of data to feed into our algorithms, availability of models to test the treatments, the strength of the patient groups. We work very closely with the patient communities to help us move the projects forward, identify the information gaps and fill them. Then there's also all of the clinical planning and the endpoints, etc. And so we try to predict likelihood of success. And that's a key way of prioritizing and selecting our diseases. And we try to approach it by building a risk balance therapeutic portfolio where we have programs of different risk profiles, different timelines to clinic, different cost bases, and then try and apply this in a more holistic way. But it is very hard, particularly to say no. We're being approached by many patient groups to work together, and we can't work on the 7,000 rare diseases at the same time. So that's really a hard question and hard decisions to make internally.
I mean, you mentioned sort of the involvement of patient groups. On the company's website, you describe Healx as being patient-inspired. what does that actually mean, and how are patients shaping your priorities?
So we're a mission-driven company. So we started inspired by a rare disease parent. For every program, we have a patient group partnerships or multiple, and that's where we start. We strongly believe the patient groups and communities, they are the experts. They are the ones who know about the rare disease. Most clinicians don't know that much about the individual rare diseases, so you really need to talk to them, work with them, and involve them. And so we have partnerships for all of our programs with patient groups. But then we also push this one step further. We've also hired people who have rare diseases. Some of our staff have children also with rare diseases. So we're really aligned behind that mission of finding treatments for rare diseases, do that at a different scale. And that helps us also bring the team together and have people working in a good, effective way, cross-functional way to find those treatments. And then after that, we've also, or on top of that, launched something called the Rare Treatment Accelerator, which is a program patient groups and other small biotechs, academics can use to apply to us and convince us to start the partnerships and try and find treatments for a particular disease. And there the objective is to try and identify possible treatment or combination that's ready for the clinic within 24 months. So that's very rapid timelines. And so we've set up a number of approaches and vehicles to really partner with the patient communities, and I think that's quite unique to Healx.
So how do those, those partnerships, in the Rare Treatment Accelerator, how do they operate, and what do potential partners, I guess, have to demonstrate to be part of that accelerator?
So that relates to the way we select and rank the diseases. And so there is an element around the data that's available, the translational process and information, the strength and commitment of the patient group themselves to really work with us, contact KOLs, help us plan through the clinical trial. And then we evaluate basically the likelihood of success and ability to translate our predictions to the clinic, because that's the most important part. I think making the predictions at this stage is reasonably straightforward. We've only had one project where we didn't have active molecules, but then it's the whole translational journey that can be more challenging. And that's where we're asking for their help and that we're partnering with.
Right. So you mentioned that the lead program is focusing on Fragile X. What is the sort of status of that program? And actually, could you describe how it was, I guess, first conceived, and what the sort of the steps in its development have been?
So it was conceived when a patient group approached us to start a partnership. So FRAXA, the patient group in the US, was one of the leading patient groups for Fragile X syndrome. They approached us because they've heard about our technology-driven way of predicting treatments, and which was quite different from what other people were doing. And so we started a partnership with them. We first analyzed all of the data that's available. We always start with that, identify the quality of the data gaps. Then we work together to identify and I guess fill up those data gaps. And there's particular type of data which I think is much more interesting from a drug discovery perspective. We call that the omics, and particular gene expression or transcriptomics. And so together we generated that data, used that to make the predictions. Then in the second phase of the project, we started predicting combination therapies, which we validated preclinically. And now we have received the orphan drug designation from the US and Europe. We're about to start the clinical trial in the US, should start this summer. So that's phase 2A. And that will test a number of compounds in combination, first monotherapies and then the combination arms. Those all came as predictions from our technology platform. And so we're super excited about that. And that's really been the foundation for the company, also for the partnerships with patient groups, launch of the right treatment accelerator. And so yeah, that's a major milestone for us.
No, one of the other things, I mean, apart from being a co-founder of Healx, you're also the co-founder of the Cambridge Rare Disease Network. Could you describe what its mission is, who's involved, and actually also how, again, it sort of helps shape, some of the priorities at Healx?
So the two organizations are independent. I started the Cambridge Rare Disease Network when I realized for Healx that there was actually no network around Cambridge and beyond to bring people together. So Cambridge is a great place to start companies and launch new initiatives. It's the first tech and biotech cluster in Europe. Obviously, there's a reasonably good university there as well. And what was missing is really a network, an organization that would bring all those experts together, and through events would also support local families with rare diseases. And so we just rapidly realized that the support network wasn't there. And so that's what the Cambridge Rare Disease Network as a charity is focused on, is bringing people together, connecting them, organizing events, and really making the most of the Cambridge cluster's expertise to have an impact on rare diseases.
And how do people get involved in that?
You can go to the website. All of our events at the moment are online, and to crdn.com or .org.
Good. So artificial intelligence and machine learning, right, in the drug discovery space, it's very, very young, and it actually still has quite a lot of sort of naysayers. So I just wondered, what messages would you have for such skeptics?
Yeah, that's another great question. So I think to the skeptics, I would say it's not a replacement for drug discovery and clinical experts. It's just a new set of tools to empower the experts. It's not the magic wand where you press on a button and you get a drug. Don't believe that's true. But I do believe it can really help improve the stages in the process, improve your likelihood of success, learning from it, but also allow you to approach it in a different way. And so we believe right now we're actually at the third wave of drug discovery, which is basically your AI-powered drug discovery or tech-driven drug discovery. The first wave was basically phenotypic screening. The second wave of drug discovery was target-based. You'd start by selecting a particular target, you optimize your molecules for that. Then your third wave is really AI-powered and AI-driven. And there you can actually start in a hypothesis-free way, which is something that we've been focused on, where you remove this initial bias from a particular target or a particular bias, and you let the algorithms decide what you're going to focus on, which diseases you're going to work on, which drugs you're going to predict, the combination, etc. And so this is really the third wave of drug discovery, which I think is a very exciting time for the field, but it's not your magic bullet and you press on a button. So I think everyone's on the same page for that, and it's not a replacement for the expert. It's just a new set of tools to really improve things and empower the expert in our field.
Right. So it's an additional weapon in the sort of drug discovery arsenal, I guess. So you mentioned about the planned phase 2A trial for the Fragile X molecule this summer. What are sort of the next key milestones that we can sort of expect or we should be listening out for from Healx?
So I think that's definitely one of them, and we have other programs following behind. We are continuing to grow our therapeutic portfolio. So we're going to launch 43 programs by 2025. We've now launched 17. There's a few partnership announcements that we will make over the summer as well. We're continuing to hire and growing the team. So anyone who's interested to join our team, contribute to our mission, please get in touch. And I think there's a lot of really exciting things around the corner. But I think our first clinical trial is really a major milestone for us as a company, and we're looking forward to that.
So well, congratulations on the sort of progress that you've made in such a short time. So and thanks very much for joining us and telling us about sort of that progress that you've been making. Also, I would like to thank the audience for listening in to this episode of Conversations in Healthcare. And if you would like to be informed about future episodes, or actually also tune into episodes that we've had in the past. So, for example, Tim mentioned Nick Ciro from AKU Society. We actually had Nick as a guest on a webinar that we broadcast a little earlier in this year. So you can get to those at our site at Clarivate, or click into our LinkedIn page where you'll be sort of giving notifications of future episodes. So thanks again, Tim, for joining me. And I'm Mike Ward, and I wish you all well.